Disclaimer, this show is for educational purposes only and is not an alternative for clinical counseling. Please seek a mental health professional for your specific needs.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Intake Talk Show, where it's time to shine the light from a mental health perspective. I am your host, Bertha Barrett, licensed mental health professional and certified clinical trauma professional. And today's topic is burnout. But before we start, if you're new to the channel or if you're new here on the podcast, please subscribe or follow. Even if you've returned several times and haven't done that, we ask that you please subscribe or follow us to support what we're doing with keeping mental health to the forefront of the world's mind and changing the concept of how humans view mental health. And we do that by making a correlation between everything, and I mean absolutely everything that we do has an impact on our mental health. So please show your support, subscribe, follow, and we thank you for that. But now we're going to get straight into the show. Let's start.
Welcome back to Intake Talk Show with your host, Bertha F. Barrett, licensed mental health counselor. Today's guest is licensed clinical social worker, Amanda Baker. Today's topic is all about burnout. Your Intake podcast starts now.
Welcome back to Intake. Today I have with me Miss Amanda Baker. Before we start with Amanda, let me just give you some background information on her. Amanda Baker is a licensed clinical social worker and mental health therapist with over a decade of experience, as well as a yoga instructor specializing in yoga psychology. She blends therapy with somatic-based practices, helping people reconnect with their bodies and true essence. Amanda's philosophy is rooted in the belief that no one is broken or in need of fixing. Her mission is to help undo the limitations of traditional mental health systems and societal conditions. Beyond her clinical work, Amanda is a poet, author of 2 poetry collections, and the founder of You Amaze Me, a movement and community dedicated to self-remembrance and authenticity. Through her courses, workshops, podcasts, and writing, she inspires others to embrace emotional truth, radical self-love, and the freedom of being fully human. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Hi, Bertha. Hi. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for accepting the invite. So today's topic is burnout. And since the pandemic, that has become, a big topic, burnout.
Yes.
And so I want you to talk about that. Can you tell us some about this trend with burnout? What do you think it resonates? Why do you think it resonates or shows so widely today?
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, if we go back to really the beginning of the pandemic and so many businesses, public places having to close down, people having to work from home. So really a big shift and change that happened was work life and home life then almost became as one. And people may have struggled to differentiate between the two,
Mm-hmm.
working at home while maybe finding a break to go and do laundry or cleaning up something in the house or having to watch their kids while being on the computer because so much of work life became virtual, that there wasn't as much of that distinction and time devoted really to debrief from perhaps the work day. And
Mm-hmm.
so burnout, which we often think of, I'm burnt out from work, has really started to become this concept that you can be burnt out from more than just your job, burnt out from being a parent or family life, burnt out from your personal life, burnt out from just life in general, because more and more during that pandemic, I think people also started to not just blur the lines and blur kind of the boundaries between their work life and their personal life, but also because they started to take the time to check in with themselves of how do I want to live?
Mhm.
How have I been living for the past decade or several years? They started to have to face not just the challenges and fear from the pandemic, because the pandemic in and of itself created a lot of fear and stress in people, anxiety. And so there was these other mental health symptoms that were happening that I think kind of blended into this whole kind of concept of burnout.
Mhm.
That burnout was almost like the mental health symptoms or disorders that people have, and burnout kind of became one thing. And I'll share more of that as we get into more of the questions to kind of to define and distinguish what I truly mean by burnout not just being something that your job is leading you to feel tired from, but really more of these like signals, signs, or symptoms of not living true to yourself. And the pandemic opened that up to people. How happy are they in their marriage? How happy are they in their job? How satisfied are they in their life? And if they weren't, maybe without conscious awareness, our body and our symptoms are going to send those signals that I'm not living in the most fulfilling way.
On that. Okay. All right. Let's help viewers and listeners understand the difference between burnout and just being tired or stressed, because there is a difference.
Yeah. So being tired and feeling exhausted and fatigued can be or is a common sign and symptom or signal of burnout, though it's not necessarily just because you're tired that that means you're burnt out. It's just one sign and signal. And so you might have had a long day at work and you might feel tired. That doesn't necessarily mean though I'm burnt out. I view burnout as a messenger, as something that's letting you know that you're not fully listening to or living in full alignment with your true self, with what's fulfilling. Because I view the things that are most fulfilling to us, that are most true to us, as going to be something that energizes you, that you tend to feel more energy and passion about. And so if you're feeling tired, that just might be, yes, you had a long day. But if you're feeling that exhaustion from a burnout perspective, that's likely indicative of, like I said, not living in that full alignment or full authenticity to to yourself, to your
Mhm.
interest, to your passion, to even I could say like what you feel is purposeful or most impactful for yourself and others in your life.
Right. I like that you said that because sometimes it's difficult for people to differentiate that burnout from tired, right? And I
Yes.
usually tell people burnout is almost feel like, it hits your soul, right? It just hits
So
your soul. And it isn't as easy to just take a nap and feel better. Okay.
correct.
So burnout
Nothing you
is
can
more
do.
lasting. And so it often makes the body just feels like it needs some time to replenish. And it
Hmm.
requires more than just a nap, more than just a quick break, a day off.
Right.
Um, and so that's important for people to understand because often they get confused with I'm burned out or I'm tired.
I agree. I agree. And so they might think, okay, I'm burnt out and I need a vacation or I need a day off
Mhm.
because they're looking at it as in I'm tired, but that burnout will likely still be there. You'll come back from that amazing vacation and then you'll still have that exhaustion along with likely some other signs and signals that are indicative of burnout.
Right, right. I love that. I really do. Interesting, but well, no, I'm not gonna ask that right now because I really want to ask you some more questions, but let's just get, you know,
Going
let's just build some foundation first before I go
beautiful.
into the questions, okay? So can you break down the difference between um types of burnout? Because again, we know the association with work. But I don't think a lot of people understand that burnout can occur in many different segments of their lives. So, can we break that down?
Sure. And I tend to actually break this down from looking or maybe people are approaching these different facets of life almost as if it's a job. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I think burnout ends up developing in these other areas, like your personal, your family, your leisure time. Because of some conditioning that just naturally exists, people might step into, let's say, being a partner. So maybe you're a wife or a husband. And if you have learned just from social norms, or
Mm-hmm.
if you give it a definition, it's almost like we have a job description for what it means to be a wife. Even if we think back traditionally, it's embedded. I think we're going through a lot of positive change to break
Mm-hmm.
some of these concepts and definitions that we're giving to these roles.
Mm-hmm.
But if I break it down here, just from the societal kind of societal way of, or stereotypical way, I'll say, the stereotypical way of looking at a wife from several years ago or decades ago, right? A wife was the one maybe who cooked the meal, the wife cleaned the house, the wife took care of the children. If we say it in this very stereotypical way, but we have that embedded, if you show up as a wife and you think that is what I'm expected to do, you might be treating it as a job. And it can be so nuanced and layered of a wife is the comforting one, a wife is the nurturing one, a wife is the organizer and the planner. And and we do that not just as a wife, but as a husband or as a mother, as a friend. What does it mean to be a good friend? And if we're taking it from that approach, is that almost as if it's a job, and that we're almost artificially creating what it means to be good or perfect in
Mm-hmm.
these roles, as opposed to living through it in your own way. What does it mean? I'll ask the listeners, what does it mean to you? How is a friendship, how is being a parent, how is being a wife, how is being your own human self show up through you
Mm-hmm.
naturally?
Mm-hmm.
Because many people don't trust their own natural way
Right.
of showing up in these different areas of life. And if it's not organic, genuine, and natural, then I truly believe that's what leads to the feelings and the experience of burnout.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting enough, because as you're talking, interesting enough, I recently did a show on boundaries.
Okay, yes,
And I want
good
you to
topic.
talk about, the correlation with boundaries and burnout, because that's essential, right?
Yes, it is.
I'm glad that you're speaking my language too, because when we talk about these traditional roles, a wife, a friend, and all of
Mm,
that, we go in with these traditional roles and often find ourselves burnt out
yep,
because of what we know. We've been taught, right? Rather than trying to develop our own way of going into these relationships so that both parties now, are
exactly.
balanced, right? So I
Yes.
love that you said that. I want you to expound on that a little bit more and then talk about this correlation with burnout and boundary setting, because I think that's important, even if that's just self boundaries.
Oh, yes, fantastic. And so much can come from approaching life, relationships, the things you're involved with relationally, and
Hmm.
being curious about your relationship with each of these things. What is my relationship with my job? What is my relationship with this
Hmm.
person? And how do I get to know them through that curious inquiry of what is going through their lenses? What are their beliefs? How do they like to engage in friendship or relationship or professional and client, even as
Hmm.
therapist and client? I think it's so important to have these conversations so that you can get to know each other
Hmm.
and understand each other versus just coming in with preconceived notions of, oh, they're a friend and they probably want me to call them every week. And then you
Hmm.
don't, right? Or you call them every day and then they're feeling smothered. But if you're not communicating about that and you just think they're my best friends talk every single day on the phone. And it's
Right.
like, well, no, me and my best friend might go like months, but it's finding what works for you and this other person or and this other thing. But if we go into it from almost, like I said, our preconceived notions or assumptions because of learned experience or what society might have told you, or even what experts may have said, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to that listening to self and this other person or other people. Um, it ends up getting really messy and more conflict arises, or you end up having conflict or arguments or that burnout, that stress. And
Mm.
so boundaries come into play through communication and also through what you want and know about yourself, right? So boundaries aren't, they need to respect this about me. If I'm telling my friend, hey, you're calling me too much, stop calling me, right now we're requesting something from them. We can't force them to do anything. We
Right,
can make
right.
those requests, but the boundary is more on you and how you respond to that. So I even work with clients who have talked about dating, and they've said to me, like, the guy wishes me good morning every day and I feel obligated to respond. And I'm so sick of like that every morning hello text. They might enjoy being like dating this person, but they might not want that much communication per
Mm-hmm.
se. And so they were struggling kind of on how to approach that. And something that I offer to them is, well, what might it be like to let them know you appreciate their good morning, but you may not respond? If it's in your boundary to say, hey, you can text me, give them that autonomy, but your boundary is, I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to respond
Right.
to you right away, or I might not respond to you daily. Um, and it's not to be mean or rude or hurtful or to punish them. It's because you know yourself and you know what connection or relationship is like for you, but you are expressing and informing the other person about yourself,
Mm.
and how you might respond is the boundary, is creating a life that you feel empowered in because you're confident and courageous enough to speak up for yourself or to respond in a way that maintains that boundary. And that could be the same thing for informing your job. My work hours are this time to this time, and my boundary is I'm not working 5 minutes over that time. Many people believe they have to go above and beyond to be considered a great employee or a good team player, that they need to volunteer for different clubs or like after the work hour activities because it looks good, but you have a choice.
Yes.
And really giving yourself that autonomy of knowing that it's not bad or wrong to not do the extra if you don't feel like you have the energy for it, or if it doesn't feel aligned or passionate to you. If you want to stay late because you love your job,
Mm-hmm.
then go ahead and do it. But that's what you want to check. Am I choosing this because it's from like true fulfillment for me, or because I'm trying to be perceived in a certain way?
Mm-hmm. I love that you said that. I really do. Because what I find often is this is key. There are so many people just being burnt out from trying to reinforce their boundaries.
Oh,
And this
yeah.
is usually what I say. And I want people to understand me clearly. I usually say, if you've reinforced those boundaries so many times, there has to be a consequence. And that consequence is not that you're punishing the person. No, that
Hmm.
consequence comes with your own self boundary that you've communicated. And that
Yeah.
consequence may be, like you said, okay, I don't, like to talk every day. And if you text me, I'll see it, but I'm not going to respond to every text, right?
Yep.
And
Hmm.
so after, doing it so often and you don't respond and someone becomes upset after you've communicated, all you can do is stand in your boundary, consequences, and say, well,
Right.
I'm just not going to respond until I get ready, right? Because the reality is we can only control self, this little space around the self, nobody else. And it's about really focusing on what I can and I cannot control. And I think that is what so many people become burnt out over, is trying to control something outside of their control.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Great
would,
distinction.
yes.
controlling something outside of you.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And we do that so much. We predict or fill in blanks because we don't like the uncertainty and the
Mm-hmm.
unknown. And so we fill it in with what we might expect the outcome
Mm-hmm.
to be. And then almost even sometimes not in your awareness
Mm-hmm.
might be a trying to control the outcome to lead to that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that effort that's going into controlling is likely a huge part of feeling burned out.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I can talk about this for a while. Yeah,
Mhm.
I would just stay right here for a while
Yeah.
because I hear it so often. I hear it with friends, I hear it with family members. I hear it so often and trying to help people understand that listen, it's about what's in your control, right? If you don't answer the phone every time that friend calls after you communicated that listen, I don't want to talk to you every day. I love you, but some days I just need my own space, my own time, right? And they still become upset. There is nothing you can do about that.
Yes, exactly. It's let them have their feelings. You can
Yes.
care about them and their feelings. You
Mhm.
can listen to them and their feelings. But when we go into changing yourself to meet their expectation of you, right? They're trying to control too.
Yes.
It's both.
Yes.
It's both. It's like we don't want other people to be upset, but that's a natural human feeling.
Mhm.
They are allowed to be upset, but it's not on you to relieve them from their emotion. And so often people will be like, all right, fine, I'll talk to you for 5 minutes every day. And this can happen like parent child relationship. I think of this sometimes with people and like their parent.
Mhm.
and they're like, fine, I'll do 5 minutes to appease you. But that people pleasing then, that too, that's gonna drain you because it's not genuine.
Right.
And I think it can be reversed. If a listener is listening here and they're the ones that want to talk to their person every
Mhm.
day, if they're the ones that call or text, I'm not saying don't change that about yourself. If
Mhm.
that's in your nature to send that message, keep sending it. But again, check within yourself. Are you then getting mad at that person for not responding? And really
Yes.
have that own self inquiry of why am I so upset? Is there something within me that's placing my worth or my value or my happiness on them responding to me? Or can I be okay that, hey, I reached out because I wanted to? And
Mhm.
that's another thing to check, right? Are you reaching out for them to respond because you
Mhm.
need assurance? Or are you reaching out genuinely because you have something to say and you want to share it? Like, hey, here's a funny joke. Maybe they read it and they laugh, but they just don't remember, they just don't respond right away. So, really having that own self inquiry, I think, is helpful to manage your own emotional states.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking, um, because this comes to mind all the time and I hear it all the time. When we talk about these different domains of burnout, I don't think
Mhm.
people understand, even with social media. Okay. Oh, that's a big burnout, right? Because everybody's trying to keep up with the new thing, social media.
Mhm.
How many likes did I get? How many followers did I get? As if it
Yes,
validates them and they're almost drained by it, right? So I am a therapist. Can I just
great point.
say that social media sometimes overwhelm me? So I know how to step back, right? I know how to step back and I've learned how to do that. Okay.
Mhm.
Over the
Mhm.
years, I've learned how to do
I
that.
might need some of your help. If you
Right.
need tips, I'll take them.
But I have to be honest, it wasn't until after COVID and I went through the whole lungs thing and had to take 3.5 breaks off from everything, right? I
Wow. Yes.
learned how to sit in that space with myself and be okay and not try to, jump into the new trends and the new fads and all of that. And so now that I'm back into it with the show, because
Yep.
it's free promotion with the show, I go, well, if this week I don't feel like posting, oh, well, because you have to learn how to balance yourself and then there's this thing, and I remember when I first started on social media, and I know because I talk to people who do this, and I laugh and try to help them how to
Yeah.
transition over to it. It's like they post something, and every 5 minutes they're looking to see who's liking it. And it's like anxiety is
It's
rising.
addictive. Yes.
But it's really burning people out to the
So
point that they're
real.
like, I don't want to do this anymore. Nobody likes me. I post, nobody does anything. Nobody's following me. And they're burnt out and they're angry and they're tired because they're just working all day trying to pull people into this
So
space.
real. Yes.
And so I think we need to talk about that too, because we don't want to pass that by. That's one of the
Thank you.
domains of burnout that so many people are dealing with now. Because we hear that you have to be on social media, you have to comment on so many
Mhm.
comments.
Mhm.
Somebody comment, you have to respond to so many. And it's like anxious here, and you're literally getting burnt out from it.
It's so like Bertha, I so get it because I relate of just
Mhm.
getting caught up into it, if wanting to promote something or share something, or hearing kind of the trends where they say like you need to post every day, you need to stay
Mhm.
relevant, you need to keep up because it's so fast moving. And then there's things like the time of day. It's better to post in the morning or don't post on a Friday night because people are out and about. And it's so silly. It's like if you feel like posting, just post. And if you get
Right.
no likes or no comments, again, check what are you posting for? Is it for that attention or validation and recognition? Or is it because you have something that you want to share? And maybe someone saw it, but they didn't like it or didn't comment, but it impacted them.
Right.
And I have heard this before of, we look at social media and people are like, well, I want, the more likes, 50 likes, 100 likes,
Mhm.
thousands of likes. But if you were out day to day in like your real physical world and you had two people say that they like something, like
Yes.
how good would that feel?
Right.
Like, right, one or two would feel amazing. But on
Mhm.
social media, one or two feels small and not enough, and then you can start to feel bad or start to get to that point where you're like, oh, I'm not doing it anymore.
Mhm.
And if you feel passionate about what you're sharing on there and you have the energy because it energizes you and you're excited about it, then do it. If you're the person who wants to post every day because you have something to share every day, do it. But
Yes.
it's the energy that's behind it, and this is what I believe for burnout in all areas,
Yeah.
of what's the energy or the intention coming from behind it? Is it because there's a sense of like insecurity and self about something that you're
Mhm.
seeking to control to get an outcome? Or is it from a place of genuinely created something or you want to engage in something, so you're showing up for it presently?
I love that. I love that. Yes, indeed, I love that. Okay, because we need to hear that. People need to know it's okay to take a break, right? It's okay to take a break from social media. It's okay to take, can we be honest? It's okay to take a break from friendships.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Hmm.
family members, it is okay to just take a break and not overexhaust yourself. Okay, because we do that so often and not listening to the self, because that's important. You have to
Hmm.
listen to yourself. We have all of these, I call them invisible laws floating around, expectations, right? Assumptions that
Yeah.
nobody's willing to communicate. Okay. And we're falling into them as if they're law and we have to do it. And now we're living in a world with people who are burnout, becoming anxious. Because can we say anxiety is one of the key things to burnout? Anxiety just rises, and sometimes depression too is
Oh,
associated with
sure.
burnout. Hmm.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up because I've done other talks on this topic and haven't spent a lot of time on on anxiety. More so the depression, because the depression and the fatigue and like the disconnection that can come. But that's usually after you have this kind of arousal of anxiety or irritability and anger and frustration. And I I would say maybe for some, when that anxiety comes up, people don't label that, or I don't want to say label, recognize that or indicate as an indicator of burnout. They
Hmm.
might say, oh, it's just my anxiety. And we hear people talk about it as if they are anxiety. Like, I
Yeah.
am an anxious person, so this can't be burnout. It's just my anxiety, as if it's something
Right.
that part of like who you are. But no, it's again, anxiety can be a valuable messenger
Hmm.
that's letting you know that something is off in your life, where you're
Hmm.
over functioning, overextending yourself,
Hmm.
working too hard, that anxiety can be that warning signal of, hey, maybe this is an area you want to say no to. Maybe this is
Right.
something you want to say no because you do need that break.
Yes, I love that. I tell people all the time, every human being on this earth becomes anxious at some point.
Mhm.
It's when that anxiousness, gets out of control and it interferes with their day-to-day functioning, right? And that's burnout. It interferes with day-to-day functioning. Anxiety is so high, and now you don't want to be around anybody. Every time you think about social media, you think about a relationship, you can't function. And that's the key. When it gets to that point, and we have to listen to our body because we have all of these beautiful emotions, I call it. They don't always feel beautiful, but they are.
Mhm.
Right? We
I
have
agree.
all of these beautiful emotions, all of these beautiful messages that is sent to the self. And we don't pay enough attention to it so that we can know how to navigate, you know, this idea of who we are in this world as this independent being that is in this bigger community.
Yes.
And that's key. Listening to the body and understanding when to just say no. Self boundary. No, maybe
Mhm.
this time I need to say no. Maybe this time I need to take a break. And I want to just kind of piggyback on it because we only have a few minutes left. What you said, and that's key because sometimes when we look at it, when we don't look at it in its context, you
Uh-huh.
said if we go out in the day and there's just two people like something, that feels powerful. But I think too in the numbers, my producer said it in one of the shows that we did. And she said sometimes we get so caught up in the numbers, right?
Mhm.
And so right now I think we have maybe 300 subscribers on YouTube, right? We had more
Okay.
before I
Yes.
got sick, right? But and I can become anxious on that and go, oh no, I'm not going to invite anybody to the show until my numbers become higher, right?
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
she put it in the context of, can you imagine if you put 300 people in a room
Yeah.
and they were there for you to talk to? That's
Yes.
impactful. We don't look at it like that. If you had 20 people in the room coming to hear you, is that not impactful? And
That's
so
so
I think,
impactful.
yes, and I think people need to understand that it's not the numbers, right? It's the
Not at all.
impact that you're making. It's the idea that people would want to come and hear what you're saying, whether it's two, three, four. When you look at it in that context, now you understand the power behind it. So I love that.
I love that too. I'm so glad our conversation took this kind of route to like get to this powerful message because people need to hear, even if it's one person, right? Or
Yeah.
like you said, 300 subscribers. And if you had even half of that, like hearing you and being like, wow, I'm going to conserve my energy more so that my energy
Mhm.
can go into the things that I love, the things that I enjoy, making an impact even if right like you said like it can have a big impact on a small number of people, but if you were to know that you changed someone's life
Yes.
because of something that you said or you expressed or you shared or that you created, that's incredible.
I love it. I love it. We gotta stop now. I don't want to, but
Woo!
we have to stop. But please join us next week for part 2 of this segment. I'm going to continue this conversation with Amanda. I am absolutely loving this. We're going to come back and continue this conversation. But until next week, I want you to always remember to continue to talk about mental health and how to make yours a priority. Have a great one. If you are a professional or someone with a story and would like to be a guest on the show, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the form to be a guest. Perhaps you are someone with a question or comment that you would like addressed on the show. Again, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the contact form. I hope to see you soon. And remember to continue to talk about mental health and how to make yours a priority.
This wraps up part 1 of our conversation with Amanda Baker. Did you enjoy this episode? We'd love to hear from you. Drop your comments, questions, and reflections on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, or any podcast platform you listen from. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Join us next week where we continue this honest and much needed conversation about burnout with Amanda Baker. Thanks for watching.